Welcome to Leadership, Love and Laughter, where we dive into the unspoken truths in life and business. I'm Natalie Potts.
And I'm Victoria Dio.
Let's go!
Whoop, whoop. What are we talking about today, Potts?
Productivity.
If you're wondering why at the beginning of each of these sessions I go, what are we doing today, Potts? Because she has always got the laptop. She's more organised and stuff, and that's just the way it goes.
And that's why I'm super excited about a boring subject. I'm like, yeah, it's productivity.
Well,
Let's work.
Yeah, well, we came across this one. It was so funny. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? We're looking at our topics. I was like, God, you know, all this stuff that's coming up. She went, you wrote it. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that. And I was like, you'd love this one. And why do I say you'd love this particular topic?
Because I love work ethic and working hard and being productive and getting shit done.
You do. I put it in a different way. I was like, you're one of the few people I know that if you get asked to do something, you'll go away and do it straight away, or you'll put the wheels into motion. I'm very much sort of like, I'll get it done and I'll put it in my diary and then I'll do it. But you're very much sort of like, boom, 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 just get it done straight away and stuff. And I love that. I love the tenacity that you move with that and stuff. And I try and wonder if I used to be like that when I was younger, your age. And I don't know if I was, but I love watching it. I love watching you produce stuff.
I think I remember being that way at work, and it always served me well. That I'm huge on like speed of implementation. I remember like being my team, and I'm like, we can either talk about it or we can just go and do it, and then we'll see. And the same. I remember once awkward situation with a HR business partner, and she loved a plan for a plan. I was like, are we actually going to just do it one day?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to talk about it again? I said, because I'm out. And I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah,
so
what's happening to the plan?
We learn. Yeah. And I'm very much about driven. I see that a lot as a leader is like, you got to lead the way, lead by example. I don't need to necessarily do it all, but it was around, let's just make it happen. What do you got to do? Just go for it. So, yeah, I think that drive people look for, and I think like people are dying to be led, people are dying for structure, they need a certain level of routine, and I think the same with productivity is like you've got to set some, I get not boundaries really, but you've got to set some standards on things.
I think you need boundaries. So here's my thing about productivity. I'm very much sort of like, if somebody says to me, oh, I'm going to do this, my question is when.
Yeah.
I don't care about the how. Tell me when. And then you can start figuring out the how for me. But I need to know when. Like, when are we committing to this? And for me, especially when I used to manage teams, and actually even now in my business, when I bring in freelancers to do stuff, I always go, when's it going to get done? And I always empower and expect the person who's doing the work to tell me when it's going to get done. I don't care how it gets done. Yeah. As long as I've specified exactly what we need and we've agreed on the spec and the quality, you just need to tell me when it's going to get done. And if I don't agree with the timeline, then we can have another discussion. But I always want to know when. And another thing that I found as well is that when you produce, that's when you have more motivation, because there's nothing better than seeing that you've produced something. It's just what it does for your ego, for your mindset. You're like, oh my God, we've done this, and then you move on to the next thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have a really
just breaking everything
big thing around when I go to co-working spaces in London and I look around the rooms and I think like, oh my goodness, if I had a big team in here, they would absolutely hate me, because I just think how would I manage it in that way? I just see people like they're not concentrating, or they're on phones, or they're just doing something else, and I guess that actually though. I guess like the lesson learned there is previously that can fall on me, because I'd need to adapt more to them as well on certain things. But I find that very hard. I'm very much a person who believes that like we need to be back working together and culture and everything as well. And I think that it's very hard to manage performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I was doing some reading today, And I was looking at productivity and a few other things as well. And it says that we waste about 4 or 5 hours a day watching TV.
I don't.
I know you don't. I don't have a TV. I don't have a TV. But it could be TV or it could be a screen that has nothing to do with producing something. And it's so easy how we're distracted.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's so important that when you're looking, especially when you're looking to build, like we're in the build phase at the moment of our lives and stuff, and it's like you need to consume information wisely
100%.
and make sure that when you're when you're absorbing, that it's going towards the production of what you want to achieve. Yeah. So listen, I love a TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. But it's like I give myself a limit to how many TikToks I watch or how long I'm going to spend on a TikTok before I go, you need to get off. And I think I shouted at myself the other day because I'd been on, I went, put it down, because I knew that if I started watching that, it was going to be a long time. I was like, how does that help you with what with what you're trying to produce? So productivity isn't just about getting the stuff done. It's about being aware that you have bigger things to produce for the life that you want. And everybody will tell you that they want a great life. There's nobody out there that doesn't want a great life. Even if they want a simple life, it's still a great life for them. So what are you doing to produce to be able to get to that level? And there's so many distractions.
Yeah. How would you define it?
Define what?
Productivity.
I haven't got a clue. I don't know. I don't know. I would say productivity is the art of creating what you need for a particular outcome. I'm impressed that I did that.
I do think the outcome bit, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do what Grant Cardone says, which is to...
Hang on.
And he said this a while ago. He was like, when do we ever look up the terms of things?
Why is she ignoring me?
And this is what I always invite people to do.
Why is she ignoring me?
I'm like, well, what does it actually mean? Sometimes we just don't really look at what things mean. So, but this is a skill I'm teaching you. Like, we don't have to know everything, but we can have the choice to see what it means.
What does Grant say?
He says about that there was a term he was looking at as leadership and management. He goes, lots of people just manage. They don't lead because they don't know what it means. Mm-hmm. So it's that invitation as well. Like, are we just falling suit to everybody else or certain things versus do we actually like really think about what things mean and what they look like? So productivity is defined as producing or able to produce a large amount of goods.
Yeah, I don't agree. So here's my thing.
Having positive results.
Yeah, again, I say I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why. I always struggle when people define something with the same word. I have a thing with that. I'm like, give me something, because if somebody doesn't know what productivity means, then the likelihood of what produce means, they could equally struggle. So to me, that doesn't make sense. And also,
interestingly, just cut you in there, it also says about the fact like it's having positive results, but I don't always get great. Yeah, again, like it's perspective, right? I don't get everything great every day. I tell you that,
but you still productive.
I still feel productive. Yeah, I still feel that I've got stuff done and focused, and I'm moving towards.
But maybe that's because 6 billion. Put him down.
Maybe that's because I like the process, but because we're driven towards bigger goals, maybe.
I think productivity is a great. It's a great. I was gonna say it's not skill, but I think it's a great. Whatever the word is to have, and I can't think, but I think it's a great trait to have. To be productive.
I think for me, like I'm huge on consistency, and I think there's more a part about like I'm intentionally trying to be consistent in doing the right things to move forward, in a state where I feel that I'm achieving things, but it doesn't have to be every day. There's a forward motion to what I'm doing. I don't feel I'm going backwards in things.
No, but the thing is, it's like, to be fair, and the last 3 months you've taken a huge step in your business. Like, you've had more clarity. You can see where you're going and everything else. But sometimes it's like, I also think that productivity sometimes is just going back and going, where's the lesson?
Yeah.
Where's the lesson? And understanding the lesson and not living there, but understanding the lesson so that when you do move forward, you're moving towards the next goal rather than coming back and swimming in what you've created. But
because otherwise we're almost saying that productivity is just linear, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's just forward, and it's like, but that's not life.
No, it's not. It's like...
and I think that's where I know I'd had the problem, like I just shared about that example of co-working spaces, that me going into there, actually, that puts me behind, because that's how teams are and how people want to be now as well. So you have to understand that, and you have to change and evolve. The same as I remember leading a team, and again, because I was, very driven, but I remember one of my peers once came in and he said, Nat, he's like, where are your team? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, you've got to watch out because you're there and they're here.
Yeah.
And I have to be very careful of that with clients as well, like, and people learning at different paces. But that actually does me a detriment, because that's on me to change, not them. So it's it's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's funny that you talked about leadership and sort of like the different levels. And I think I did a post today. Can't remember what. I think it was this post for today, but it's about, one of the things that I really pride myself is I always bring people into my team who know more than me about certain subjects.
That's so important.
And I do that because the amount of productivity for me would be, as you say, linear. If I didn't have people who could complement me. I don't want someone who thinks like me.
No.
I don't want someone like values are important, but if somebody's a value or two out, I'll still bring them in, because I know that they're going to be overall a great fit for the team. But I'm so heavy on bringing people in that I know I can learn from, and they can learn from, because productivity wise, you create absolute magic. Otherwise, it's just going to be boring, and productivity has to be fun. You know, and when I look at productivity, I look at it from different angles. I used to own a food company, and I used to produce pepper sauce. And it was a whole process, from getting up at midnight and going to the market and stocking up and having to navigate relationships between all these traders and loading the car and driving home and washing the veg. The whole thing, to stewing it, to bottling it, to labeling it. And even that productivity, it's not always smooth.
Right.
But the end result was a bottle or a jar of pepper sauce in somebody's hands, and they're so appreciative that you've saved them time. You've produced this gorgeous sauce for them that they can show off to their friends and eat food with flavour and everything else. So the end result of productivity as well is amazing. And whether it's positive or not, it's still an experience.
Yep.
Yeah, and we can't negate that.
So what's not productive?
I think when you choose to procrastinate on something that you really want,
right?
I think that's not productive.
Because, like example, when people say, like you just said about TikTok, when people are doing that, is it doom scrolling, or they're on TikTok for ages, or they watch loads of Netflix. I like watching Netflix. I like a little bit. I don't watch it loads, but like I don't feel a need though to say to somebody that's just not productive either.
No, of course not. But here's the thing though. It's about, you mentioned before, about having boundaries.
Right.
Right? You need to be able to discern in your life what's acceptable for you.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, what's acceptable for you. I don't think it's definitely not a blanket instruction, because for me, I know myself. This is why I don't have a TV. If I had a TV, this would be my face for 20 hours, because I've done it, right? I love a bit of TV. I love watching people, right? So all you need to do is put I remember watching the very first episode of Made in Chelsea I watched, but The Only Way is Essex. I remember watching the very first episode and I was like, in shock. And I didn't know if it was a joke or not, right? And I put it on Facebook. I remember watching it. I was like, I couldn't believe they'd made human beings like that. I was in complete shock. And I could...
They've made human beings like that.
It's true, though. I'd never seen anything. I'd never seen people speak like that, behave like that. I was like, Lord Jesus. My point is, I get distracted very easily. So I have to have boundaries where I go, you know what? For me, non-negotiable in the morning, it's prayer, meditation, gratitude, healing clients. And then I go into my office and I start working. If at some point I get to that point where I go, okay, I need to do something, it's either because in my calendar it says go away, go for a walk, go get something to eat, or watch a film. And I will happily watch a film, and not in a million years will I ever think that I'm not being productive, because it's also part of self-love as well.
And that's really key that you say that, because I had to work through quite a lot of my mindset coach last year of like, you can just switch off. Like I find that really hard. And like even things of, I'd often like going to the gym and I like been on a treadmill and listening to a podcast and stuff. And some people are like, well, you never switch off. That's that. It's like, but that's like, I enjoy, I enjoy that. Or, you know, you can watch something like, I love The Sopranos, and my mindset coach was saying she loves The Sopranos too, but she said, you could just watch that, but you'll take different learnings. You know, the same as if you listen to sometimes music, and you can like, music is a great one for getting across messages with people all the time and stories and everything, but that still can be productive in a different way. So I think, like you say, like you've got to define it and put some boundaries on it of what it means to you, versus challenge yourself as well to what's not on things and what that really looks like. Like I don't necessarily see working all the hours under the sun like I used to in the corporate world. That doesn't mean I'm not productive now because I work less. It's just, it's different. And I'm also happy. And the same in the morning routine stuff. I did a share this week on social media around D5am Club again, because I've just naturally this week woken up really early and I felt good too. I used to do it all the time for years because I was so conformed to it. I'd be for work for 7 and I loved it. You know, it's very quiet in the morning. It's my time. I'm not that way the whole time now, but sometimes I enjoy it. And my kind of point in it was the kind of, you know, it's, you don't have to do the whole get up, gym, cold shower, all this routine you're told to do, or like sometimes told to. Make it work for you, but actually, like, if you want to change it up, that's okay as well. It doesn't mean then it's not, or give yourself a hard time, which is what I used to do. Well, I haven't done this and that and that. It's like, you don't need to.
No.
Like, I get, like you just said, like sometimes I want to wake up. And that was a big reason of moving to, you know, again, to change my life in terms of running my own business, was that I just wanted a bit more freedom than I don't want to necessarily be productive. And I guess for me, interestingly, and this is where like we're open and honest in here, that when I look at that point I've shared about the co-working space, like if I'm going to be in that environment can change stuff, I probably do want to be quite structured, and that works for me. And again, it's knowing what works for you, versus there are times at home when I don't necessarily want that, or I want a bit more fluid, and again, that's fine too. And I think that, you know, like as much as we all judge, and we do to a point, it's trying to take that away and just like allowing people to learn and know what's right for them.
Yeah, it's what you respond to. But just to a couple of points. So the first one is, even sometimes I may be watching a TikTok, or I may decide and watch a film on Netflix, and I'll find that the answer that I've been looking for is in what I'm watching right there and then. And there have been times when it'll take me down a huge rabbit hole and stuff, and I'm like, oh, what else is there that I can, you know, that I can learn from here and stuff. So there's that as well. And I think having that open mind to going, do you know what, I'm just going to enjoy myself. It is what it is. And receive whatever comes through. Like sometimes I'll hear quotes, or there'll be something I'm going, oh my goodness, I never knew that. But I'm finding it on probably the least expected place, you know? And I'm like, wow, that was really useful. So that's another thing. So you never know where you're going to find those gems.
Just with that though, do you find the same is true when people say about going on holiday and having the space? Because 100%. I find that really, really hard.
Yeah, 100%. It's like, I've just been on a retreat, and it's probably been, I would say, the most transformative experience I've had to date. And I'm not saying that because it's the most recent, but it's allowed me to just be. And for the first time in a long time, I think I posted, but I posted because I wanted to, as opposed to because I thought I had to. I I gave myself space to exercise, which I've not been able to do for a long time. Um, I've I really allowed myself to be in a way that I've not, and listen, I believe that I am a being more than most people, but I took it to a whole different level. And the creativity that comes with that has been immense. And also just the thought process. But you need to also let go. Remember as well that when you're struggling to let go, it's a form of control, which is a whole different thing to deal with as well, right? So sometimes you just need to let go. Sometimes you just need to let go, knowing that everything's going to be okay. You know, it's that aspect, and and not holding on to stuff, thinking that, oh my god, if I don't, what's going to happen, or who's going to think of me in this way and stuff. We need to stop subconsciously thinking that what people are going to think or how we're going to look, and just stay true to ourselves. If we stay true to ourselves, we can't fail, and when I say fail, our perception of fail.
Do you think people think they're productive, but they're not?
I actually think that if people wrote down everything they did, they'd realize that they were more productive than what they actually are.
Really?
Yeah, I think I think the noise gets carried in the way.
Yeah.
And when I say that they're more productive, they're probably just angling the productivity in a very different way. So it's not that people are sat there doing nothing.
Yeah.
But it may be that they're focusing on the stuff that doesn't get them the results that they want.
Because I would
rather than
default
later.
naturally quickly and say they no. It's like people aren't as productive as they think.
But
I think actually when like the open discussion stuff like that, I think like and going through it today, it's like maybe if you just take a bit of that off and just see how like the reality is the world's changed and the world is changing and people are changing what they want and
listen, here's my thing, right? I don't think I know lazy people. I don't know.
No.
I don't know lazy people. To me, those are the people who I would say you're not being productive. What I do know though is that I know a lot of overwhelmed people. I know a lot of people who have to deal with a lot of stuff.
I think that's that's a good point.
And being able to dispel all of that, and put it into the right buckets and let it click at the right time, just doesn't happen. I would never say that people aren't as productive. I would say that they're doing a lot of stuff, they're just not getting the results because they're focusing on different things at times that aren't aligned with the goals that they're trying to achieve.
And I think that's a maturity thing, and I think that's experience as well.
Are you saying I'm old?
Perspective. No, in the way that, like I said, like again, I always look about how would I be different in the corporate world, how would I be different with teams. I can be very logical. I was very logical then as well. And I was at certain points very black and white, and I like to try and like you've always said the word compassion. I think that's always one of the key words, but also empathy with that. Being empathetic, being compassionate, to just like we've said before, sometimes listening to what's not being said, any behaviour changing people, just giving that space a bit more, because you are right actually. If you came from the reframing that perspective that people are overwhelmed, I think that's more bang on the money that it is. There's so much coming at people the whole time now, all the time.
What's the difference between compassion and empathy for you?
Empathy is putting yourself in someone else's shoes. Compassion would be, so that's more about me with someone else. Compassion would be being kind to somebody and kind to yourself. Okay.
Just thought. To me, I find them quite similar.
Yeah, I know you use them the same.
It's quite similar. But the other thing I was going to say as well is, and I hope I get this right, but it's called Fibonacci sequence.
Okay.
And it shows that nothing is ever linear. So it's like you're never going to go from a bit like. So I did some work with Ryan Pinnick years ago, and he always used to say, it's never that you meet the guy and then you meet the guy for a drink and then you're pregnant the next day and stuff like there's a lot of stuff that happens in between. You know what I mean?
That's not an invitation to send us a message if that did happen to you.
Yeah.
You said it never happened. It happened.
Like, it happened.
I've got 3 kids now.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like there's, you'll meet and then you'll probably be thinking, well, do I want to date this person again? Don't I want to, like, there's a back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And that sequence always stands true. So it's that whole thing where people assume that they've succeeded with one thing and then they're expected to succeed all the way through. It never happens. Like there's
that was me.
Yeah, but there's always a backwards and then the forwards and the backwards and the forwards, and that way that creates more sustainability.
I was that way because I'd always had it that way. Therefore, you just expect that as well, right?
Yeah,
You
same
get used to it, don't you? It's
yeah,
hard, but
what a shock!
Yeah, no, that slaps us in the face.
What a shock when you realise that life ain't that life don't flow.
I always say that when I speak. I'm like, life was pretty linear in the corporate world.
Yeah.
I just did well.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Yeah, and maturity has a lot to do with it and stuff. Now I speak with wisdom, and okay, so here's a story, nothing to do with this, but I remember years ago, my friend Amanda and I were this is when we used to nightclub. Yeah, I used to nightclub. I remember we were stood outside Ritz's.
Where?
In Ritz's in Leeds,
Oh,
in
right,
the Merrion
okay.
Centre. And we stood there sort of like high heels and short skirts and everything. And we saw a friend's sister queuing to go in. And we went, shocking, she's 25. Oh my God. And I turned around to her and I said, if I'm ever 25 at a nightclub, kill me.
Well, how old are you?
I must have been about 18. But you just think, how old? I was like, I know. I was on stages at 25 dancing in a nightclub and stuff, but the whole maturity thing where you just, until you live it, you don't know.
Until
right?
you get there, you don't know.
Yeah,
That's back.
That's why it's really useful to experience stuff. So locking yourself away and not having those experiences is also a big mistake as well.
I had a big thing this week. I was like, stop being a serial certificate collector, just do it. I was like, nothing will override just pure experience of things. But I was really bullshit at 21. I said that again to somebody the other day, they're like, really? But I just,
Don't you think you're bullshit now?
Not in the same way. There was probably,
Have you matured
I don't
now?
know, it was an arrogance, but I think I give more. I'm not like sometimes like you do. I'll just go, and then I'll go, well, I hear young people, and I think, God, I kind of wish I was a bit more like that as well when I was younger. But I was like, no. I said, you'll learn.
Yeah, experience gives you so much though. But then but like you said, I love the innocence and the fact that I don't know. Like. There was actually I was watching something this morning and there was this kid at a concert and he went, can I have your autograph? And it was literally in the middle of a set and the musician actually stopped the whole concert to speak to this kid. And I was like, a human being would never do that. And being in the moment and just going for what you want and not thinking about what anybody else thinks, that is the magic of life. And if you can, and that's why your intuition takes you back to that space where you don't have to think about what anybody else is thinking. No. You just do you.
Yeah.
Irrespective of the consequences. You know what I mean? And guess what? He got an autograph. He went viral and stuff. Kid was only about 8 or something.
Fair
but
play.
Yeah, he didn't think about it. He just went, I want your autograph and I don't care what time it is or what you're singing.
There is interestingly, we can round it off with this, but there is, again, well, I think I mentioned it in a previous episode or one before, but my Gorda as well said about the imagination of a kid, the curiosity. And I've heard this a few times recently. Again, like, do we ever just get in that mode of just thinking and being like a kid? And we get so serious as adults. And that's what we said a bit with this, isn't it? We also want it to be fun and have a laugh. Sometimes it doesn't have to be this, well, what am I going to learn from it? What was the message? What was the intention? Like, sometimes you just don't want that. You just want a discussion. You just want to say things, well, I don't really know what that means. Or, okay, look, change my mind on it and things like that. And just sometimes it's nice to come to a space where there doesn't have to be a return. And sometimes that's a struggle for people.
But the content that we're absorbing right now tells us to care. So there's a world where we've been conditioned anyway to be scared. We've been told a lot of lies in our life about how not good we are and blah, blah, blah. And then we've come into the personal development world and also a corporate where you're being told to be a certain way and speak a certain thing. the conditioning is too much.
It is.
And it takes a lot of shedding, of those different layers for you to be childlike, to be in that space. And that's why you'll have retreats where sometimes they just dance and just let go and just be, right?
Yeah.
Just literally don't think, because constantly, like the number of times when I've looked at something and thought, I want to post it, I'm not going to post it. And it's not because I'm scared of posting, but sometimes I go, I can't be bothered with the what that would produce. Like I literally haven't got the time to be going back to it. I've seen people post stuff where even now people are going back to it months later and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And stuff like people think a certain way and they're driven to think a certain way. And sometimes I wish you could just put stuff out there and just let it go. But there's times when I've even gone, oh, I can't be asked. And then I censor myself or I censor it and put it out in a different way that creates the intention that I wanted.
Yeah.
But may not have created the noise that it could have done had I just put it out in its original format.
Yeah.
So to speak. So yeah, we're too conditioned. Anyway, we're done.
We are.
That's productivity for you.
Thank you.
And we spoke about nightclubs and the whole lot. I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening. If you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it with them, and we would love you to subscribe. Remember, the insights shared only have value when you take action.